Habakkuk is living in a time of confusion. Sound familiar? Habakkuk is living in a time when he sees the leaders of his nation, both politically and religious, leading his nation into total destruction, leading them into spiritual rebellion against God, leading them away from the foundation of what they were built on into an accommodation of all of the crazy religious, political, societal ideas of the world around him. And so Habakkuk cries out to God, and in essence the whole book is a dialogue. Habakkuk talks to God, God responds to Habakkuk. Habakkuk asks God again, God responds to him, and here's how it goes. Habakkuk starts out by saying, God, where are you? What are you doing? Why are you allowing the leaders of our nation to lead us in this way? They are destroying the foundations of this country. They are destroying the faith of this people. And the evidence of their leadership is that we see evil, we see violence, we see corruption, we see perversion, we see deception on every hand. God, how could you let this happen to your people? Ever feel that way? Like every day? And so Habakkuk cries out to God. And God answers and says, don't worry, Habakkuk, I'm going to solve the problem. Here's what I'm going to do. Look beyond the borders, look to the north and the east, and you will see the building armies of Assyria. And I am going to bring Assyria, and they are going to be my stick that I'm going to use to discipline this people, and this is how bad it's going to get. And then he goes through explaining this is going to be really, really rough discipline on this nation. This nation is going to be destroyed. It's going to be devastated. They're going into captivity. The mighty men are going to die. The women are going to be left without husbands. Children are going to be destroyed. Famine is going to be widespread. The nation is going to be shattered. Habakkuk is now reeling. He asked God how he could let his people go into such evil, but God's solution seems worse than the problem. So his mind is reeling again, and he says, God, how can you call an evil, wicked nation, a nation that has a history of being hostile to you, a nation that has no spiritual insight or illumination or foundation at all, to come and destroy your people? God says, Habakkuk, as far as his soul, this is where we pick up in Habakkuk 2:4, his soul, that is Nebuchadnezzar, is not right within him. His soul is lifted up through pride. But your job, Habakkuk, is to live by faith. In other words, as God often does when you ask him questions, he doesn't answer. And the reason he doesn't answer is because he is not accountable to us. We are accountable to him. And God doesn't explain himself when we get confused. What he does is call us to trust him. Because faith can only work in an environment of opposition. Faith is not strengthened when things are prosperous, when things are comfortable, when things are enjoyable, when everything's going my way. That weakens faith. Faith is designed for conflict. And when the whole world went into rebellion against God, bringing all the catastrophe that we see going on around us, God provided the one key and the one solution to all of the ills of history and all of the trials of the individual soul, and that is faith in him. We are living in the days of Habakkuk. We are living when Christians cry out as Habakkuk cried out. We are living in a time when our nation has turned its back on everything that this nation was built on. God was so evidently involved in the founding of this nation. The founding fathers made it clear that they were looking not for human aid, but for divine provision in the founding of a nation where people would be free to live their lives without tyranny and to live according to the dictates of their conscience when it came to their faith or their religion, if you want to use that term. We're completely off the rails as a nation and going further every day. And I'm not a prophet, but you don't have to be a prophet to look at our country and to see the storm clouds building on the horizon. We are in, as the politicians love to use this term, but they never respond to it, an unsustainable course of action. We are heading towards self-destruction as a nation. And I would suggest that each one of us is going to face things in the days ahead that is going to bring us to the point where we cry to God and say, what are you doing? I don't understand this. This doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you let this happen to me or to my church or to our nation, whatever the case may be? How can you stand by and let this happen? God's answer is going to be something similar to what he said to Habakkuk. I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing, and you wouldn't understand it even if I told you. So therefore you're going to have to come back to the one foundational principle, and that is, do you trust me? When things are dark and things are difficult and life is painful and life hurts, can you trust in what you know? We are living in perilous times. We are living in times where we find ourselves, I'm sure I'm not the only one in this group who finds myself saying, I never thought I would see this. 5 years ago, if somebody had told me, I couldn't have believed this. And look, it's happening. And if things have changed so radically in 3 to 5 years, and it seems that we're going more and more over the steep edge of the precipice, where are we going to be a year from now? What will the world be like for my children and for my grandchildren if time continues apart from the intervention of the rapture of the church and the return of Jesus Christ? It's one thing for us to say the just shall live by faith. It's another thing to say that when you don't have the answers and life doesn't make sense and God isn't giving you any illumination as to what's going on, and you may feel like you're groping in the dark, if you truly have that faith that lays hold of his person and his essence through the person of Jesus Christ, there is going to be a consequence. There's going to be a result. And the fruit of faith in perilous times is rest in the soul. We are not going to find rest in this generation. We are not going to find rest in this world from this world. But we can find a supernatural rest, the rest that is the faith rest life. And that is the ability in the midst of perplexity and in the midst of confusion and darkness and difficulty, the ability to rest our souls on the anchor of our soul, as Jesus is called in Hebrews chapter 6. And to rest on that secure foundation. To you and I, what we face in the world today is going to be heartbreaking. There's going to be difficulty. There's going to be hardship. There's going to be peril. Yet at the same time, deep down inside, there can be that calm and that poise and that peace that passes human understanding. And folks, we have to battle to get to it. I find myself, I can hardly turn on the news without just getting enraged. Sometimes I just want to tear the house apart. Whatever you may be facing personally, whatever you face as a group, you're not alone. You never have been alone. You have the Almighty God, the Deliverer, the Redeemer on your side. And in the days ahead, as things get tougher, which I believe they will, remember, the just shall live by faith. What does it mean to live by faith? Not that I understand everything God's doing. Not that I can explain it to anybody else. Just that I know that he's in charge and he is faithful. And it's all going to be well for those who trust in him. So if the fig tree doesn't blossom and there's no fruit in the field, there's no cow in the stall, and there's nothing in the pantry, I'm going to rest in him. And I pray that you'll do the same.